Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic:
who was actually the worst president ever? Mobutu Sese Seko, president of Zaire, aka Democratic Republic of the Congo, by far is the worst president. After deposing and executing the former president Patrice Lumumba, he then went to turn the country to an insanely corrupt autocracy, gutting the natural wealth of the country as well as its institutions to enrich himself to the tune of up to $15 billion. The man had the country build him an airstrip in the middle of the jungle near a palatial estate, known as the Versailles of the jungle, so that he can charter a Concorde to take him to go shopping in Paris. There were uncountable human rights violations and massacres attributed to him during his rule. His support for the Hutu extremists after the Rwandan genocide directly led to the First and Second Congo Wars, which attributed to the deaths of some 6 million people. Yeah, American presidents don't come close to how terrible this guy was. After deposing and executing the former president Patrice Lumumba, with the help and backing of Belgian intelligence and the CIA. The photo of Kennedy receiving the news always gives me chills. Fun fact: any country that gets renamed to include Democratic or People's Republic is neither of those things. This is why Seko is inherently inferior to Jean-Bedel Bokassa, who just straight away declared himself emperor and renamed his country Central African Empire. All this in 1976. Then went ahead and spent 1/3 of the country's yearly GDP on the one-day-long coronation ceremony. Bonus points for being overthrown by the same guy he overthrew 13 years earlier. But Bokassa loses out to Sese Seko and Nguema. Now, that guy made Seko look like a sweetheart. In the severity of his crimes against humanity though. I also really have to add that this guy Bokassa staged his coup in the name of the proletariat, vowing to end the bourgeoisie. Took him a decade to reach the point of crowning himself emperor from there. The president of my Hoa. I hate that bitch too, and I don't even know them. The president of the Selena fan club. Selena was a popular Mexican-American singer in the late 80s, early 90s. The president of her fan club shot and killed her after being confronted about embezzling money. Less than. Fuck Yolanda Saldiva. All my homies hate Yolanda. Assuming president just means leader of a country. Not counting Hitler. Easily Pol Pot. Just supremely evil, and his actions go under the radar because it happened in country the West rarely thinks about. IARC. Pol Pot holds the WR speed run for dropping average life expectancy to under 20 years old. And heaven forbid you wear glasses. It is estimated that he caused the death of 25% of Cambodia's population in just 4 years. Pol Pot might be worse than Hitler tbh, but I suppose we shouldn't make it a competition. I'd imagine there are several dictators who would be worse given the opportunity, but just didn't have the opportunity or, thankfully, were ousted before that point. Steve, senior high-class president, class of 1992. You ran on a platform of getting porno mags in the school library. It's been 30 years, Steve. There are still no porno mags in the school library. Steve, I voted for you, dude. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. You had one job, one promise. Pol Pot. He sure was the worst of the worst. I guess the craziest part to me is that of all of the folks on this list, he drastically outlived his time with autocratic power. The fact that this guy wasn't executed well into the late 90s is beyond me. My parents experienced the genocide firsthand. He was a terrible, terrible person. My family helped a Cambodian family who came to the US in 78 or 79. The dad had been the president of the National Dental Association. And he had terrible teeth, big gaps and dirty looking. The communist army had come in the middle of the night, took the mom and girls to one prison camp, took him and the boys to another. When the guard was putting the dentist into a hole in the ground, his home for the night, he knocked out the dentist's teeth with the butt of his rifle. The dentist picked them from the dirt and put back in as many as he could, while in a dirt hole. My partner's family came here during the Khmer Rouge, and some of the stories I hear from her family is insane. Even after 40 plus years, it still has an effect. Her dad told me the story of what was the tipping point for them, and he teared up a bit. Gianni Infantino, president of FIFA. Sepp Blatter would like to have a word with you. Sepp Blatter was a man who sold the World Cup to the highest under-the-table bidder. Blatter was a simple man, driven by personal enrichment. Infantino literally defended corruption, sport-washing, archaic views on sexuality, and a Middle Eastern backwaters right be a bunch of horrible pricks. He did this by saying that Europe should be the ones apologizing for it. He promised reform, and instead he crumbled under the first sign of pressure. Today I feel gay. Quote, but you can't wear the One Love armbands, or we will issue you a politically motivated yellow card, unrelated to the sport on the field. The fuck did he even mean by this shit? Today I feel gay, disabled, a migrant worker, etc. WTF? Reagan was pretty shit. He can be blamed for most of economic worries we've been facing due to his greedy trickle-down economics scam. Can't believe how far I had to scroll for this. That man set America's demise in motion. Funny how all the modern disastrous presidents are Republicans. I wonder if there is a reason for that. Reagan has been the most dishonestly marketed president in history. He's a hero to conservatives while a criminal enterprise was operating on his behalf. Iran-Contra should have led to his removal. The fact that it didn't led directly to Bush and Trump facing no consequences for their behavior. Republicans actually believe that their leaders are above the law. This went well. The presidency of Ronald Reagan marked the start of a long period of skyrocketing rates of incarceration, largely thanks to his unprecedented expansion of the drug war. The number of people behind bars for nonviolent drug law offenses increased from 50,000 in 1982. Over 400,000 by 1997.